So I just want to re-emphasize, when we talk about cost of technology, it comes in three shapes. It tries to reflect the bad processes we have today, right? Normally, technologies follows the processes. And processes in means regulations, policies, and the byproduct of that is processes. So technology itself doesn't solve the problem. We've got to solve the process problem. And I think that's a part of our job as a regulator, to ensure that you get the processes better and better. Once you get that better, you can bring technology. When there is a gap in technology, you add more complex technology processes. That's where all the tokenization, distributed network helps, ledgers help. And I'm going to use the term called cost of intelligence. And that's what AI is going to reduce. You don't have to spend billions of dollars to find certain things. Systems are going to find for you. Algorithms are going to discover for you. Imagine the cost of intelligence today we pay for. There are a lot of costs in our society we pay for just because somebody knows more than us. And that will just go away because of AI. And once that goes away, it brings to the core construct of economy is good ideas. So good ideas becomes much more pervasive, much more, have better opportunity to succeed in our future, next generation.
So that's a very good point. It's just not technology alone, but at the end it's about regulation. And I think earlier on, a few professors talk about all of this has to be human-centric, so that we can have an orderly transition towards a new foundation, new finance that we have. And that comes to my second question. It follows up with such a strong foundation in place, then would borderless innovation and new financial services automatically arise? Or would innovation need to be a catalyst to spark the change? Could you share any real-world application that you have seen, or even share efforts in creating this first big spark? And I think a lot of people know about all the projects that you have initiated, like Project Ubin, Guardian, Greenprint. I can keep going on. Yeah. But can you put all this together, why you're doing this, and answer the question of, does innovation just happen on its own, or?
No, so anyway, it's a very difficult journey because you're trying to imagine a problem statement which may not exist today. You're trying to put a solution which is not understood well today, and that's a difficult journey you take. Who would have imagined that sitting in Singapore, we somehow end up putting our first credit system, which is based on Web3 architecture, not in Asia, not in subcontinent, but all the way to the west of Africa in a place called Ghana. Because when we built that system, Proxterra, and we went around talking about it in Singapore and in Asian market, nobody really cared for it. So we went on a journey from east side to west side. And finally, it got caught by Ghanaians in the west side. And we started working with them. And today, as we speak, we have already disbursed a small, modest way, using complete Web3 architecture, $1 million worth of loans to small borrowers. Just as we speak, a 100 million line has been given to that same platform for disbursement. The entire process of disbursing loan is based on universal trust credentials, where a borrower doesn't need to prove they have a bank account with money. All they have to do is they have to go and identify few credentials about themselves, and that can be tokenized on the network, and the lender receives those tokens, gets it verified, and there's a Development Bank of Ghana which provides the first loss guarantee, and the loan is disbursed. The whole process is built on a classic, truly Web3 architecture. Why it is better than what we have today? Because a system which can be trusted, you cannot manipulate the credentials, and you can get a real-time assessment of the borrower. I think to me is a journey which is worth taking. It took us 3 or 4 years to get there. The other example is on the sustainability side. As we're thinking of putting a platform for small businesses to disclose their green credentials, we realized most small businesses and medium-sized businesses really don't care about disclosures. For them, they have to get by the day. So then we are encountered with the problem of how do we make it easier for them to disclose the data. So we went and figured out that we can use some good AI component, and some universal trust credentials mechanism, and together we can put together a platform for helping these businesses to disclose their credentials. And UNDP published a report, which you can go and check, called the Project Savannah, which talks about the whole mechanism of universal trust credentials as a way to do disclosure. We just came out last month. So that's an example on the green side. The second example would be on the Project Guardian, Project Mandala, very fun, all kind of different names we give. It talks about a whole set of experiments on the financial infrastructure side, settling across the border between assets of different types. We have done series of experiments, both in production and on test environment, to demonstrate that we can truly shift our financial market to this new architecture. So there are a host of experiments going, host of real production deployments are going, and then comes this paper this week. And we are so privileged that all the effort we put together did find its destination. I think the world at large has finally acknowledged that the future infrastructure will be based on Web3. Until that time, till today, I was not sure myself, because I thought this discussion will continue for the next couple of years. With Augustine Carson and Nandan talking about it, they have just made it work for us.
So I think what you just mentioned is that for innovation, there must be some recognition.
Yes.
And there must be some regulation eventually to come. I think this is precisely the discussion in the last two panels. They were talking about all the bottlenecks, and they were looking at ways to see how, from the private sector, they could resolve those issues. But what you are saying is that now even not only public sector, but international organizations who are in charge, the central bank of the central bank, the Bank of International Settlement, together with one of the biggest country central bank, and other central banks are beginning to realize that this Web3 technology, or this Web3 plus technology, with maybe the base layer is open blockchain, that they are using ERC3525, which is the Ethereum standard for semi-fungible token in doing a lot of this disbursement.
Yes.
And that's I think, the last two panels were just looking for answers, and you have just provided that answer.
And it's important for the central banks to actually go and do it, because this is a new technology. You can, sometimes private sectors are not sure about the direction. And this is interesting change, because having central bank to actually step out, do this project, demonstrate their own interest, their own discovery, is a great way to get this thing in the right direction. And I'll tell an example, Prof. Let's take the example of the payment sector. This is a classic example of how investors' money get wrongly allocated, or get allocated for right reasons, and then that becomes a regret later on. If you take us 10 years back or 20 years back, investors put a lot of money behind payment industry. And after decades of innovation, simplification of payment industry, you see last 2-3 years, regulators are creating processes or regulation which will squeeze the margins of this company. So investors have allocated capital, companies have come up, and the revenues are getting squeezed because policymakers are putting constraint for them to make any margin. They think payment is a public good. Do you want that kind to happen here in this industry, where you get investors put money, after 20 years regulators comes the regulation and kill the margin? So what the best way is to have together, let the regulators and the innovators work together and find out the balance between risk and opportunity, so it is a sustainable long-term journey. Having this gap between timing of when investors start, when policymakers come, is a very dangerous long gap for us to deal with.
So this is a scientific conference with a lot of academics here. So besides the private sector, the public sector, the regulators, I want to bring in the academics as well. I know you have a lot of accolades like, Shanghai University of Finance and Economics, you're a senior fellow.
They just give it to me because I'm, yes.
But here, I'm also appealing to you. Hopefully, you can be advisors to some of the academic journals to direct the kind of research towards that will be useful to the central bankers and also the community, such that we can all work towards the right area, either on ethics, processes, on the digital infrastructure. I think, I hope you can also lead some of the central bankers to become advisors to some of these journals to direct the academic community towards the right area of research.